In this lecture, we're going to be looking at normals in Blender. We're going to learn what normals are, why incorrect normals can mean trouble, and how we can identify and correct normals. Before I'm going to give you a little cube-based challenge. So, let's go into Blender. So for this tutorial, I have a pre-made cube set up that has been divided or subdivided into a series of smaller square faces. Now in Blender, we use Blender for a variety of things. We use them for animations, game assets, all sorts of things. We use it for test models, aerodynamics. You can use it for just about anything. One of the things that Blender is most commonly used for is importing or exporting models into game engines such as Unity and Unreal Engine so that they can be used in those games. However, sometimes you might export a model and then you might find that when you import it into, say, Unity, that not all the model is visible. Certain bits and pieces may be missing. If you find this, then the most likely cause of this is that you have a normals issue in your Blender design. Basically, every single face in Blender has an inside and an outside. The idea is that all faces should be visible from the outside, because the outside of the face is the part of the face where light reflects off it. So every time a face is constructed, that face is given two sides, just like an A4 piece of paper. However, one side of that A4 piece is glossy, as for an example. So that glossy side is used so you can reflect light off of it. The other side of that paper is just regular paper, and it absorbs the light, so you can't see any change in the paper. The same concept applies here. We have the glossy part of the face on the outside and the regular, not very exciting part of the face on the inside. If you have a situation where the normals are incorrect and the normals that should be on the inside are facing outside, then you will have the situation where no light will reflect off of them and they will be invisible in your game engines. So, to identify what a normal is and to identify any incorrect normals, it's actually very simple, and you can probably spot them already. Basically, a face will be a lighter shade if it's correct and a darker shade if it's incorrect. That's basically the be all and end all of normals. So this one's correct, incorrect, because we can see it's clearly a much darker, bluer shade. So it's very easy to identify normals, especially if the normal faces are quite large on your object. So how do we correct them? Well, the first thing we can do, just seeing if it's along here but it's not, is we can select our entire object by pressing A. I have to do that a couple of times. And you can correct this by pressing Control or Command on your Mac and the letter N. And this instantly makes all normals consist with each other. So it consists with the outside of the mesh. So every mesh face is now correct, as we can see. We can also use this to turn our faces inside. So now that I've ticked the box, the entire mesh is full of outside inside normals. Now, not entirely sure in my personal opinion why you would want that, but that option is there anyway. So I'm going to revert them back to normal with Control and N. And the next thing I'm going to do is just show you a couple of other places where you can revert normals. So if we go to the specials menu, we can flip normals of anything selected. So I've just clicked flip normals, and we can see that the color of the face that was selected has been changed. We'll select that again, press W, flip normals, and there we go. So that's an introduction to normals. Very important that we know how to solve the normals issue, because you don't want to be importing your models into your Blender games, or worse, selling your models to games developers and for them to find out that they can't see parts of your creation because the normals were inside out. So let's make sure we've got that right, guys. So I've got a challenge now. I want you to open up the cube asset in the assets folder of this module, and I want you to correct the normals on the cube asset. Do that, guys, and I will see you in the next lecture.